Hello everyone, and welcome to my Young and the Restless official 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Kane and Phyllis's hot train interaction is busted by Lily? Kane Ashby and Phyllis Summers might be preparing for a steamy train encounter. Let's discuss what lies ahead for YNR, as it appears that the pair could be exposed in a controversial situation. First, Joshua Morrow's character Nick Newman will attempt to prevent Phyllis from making a major error once more. Nick believes that Phyllis and Kane's partnership will ultimately fail. The last thing Nick wants is for Phyllis to end up behind bars as a result of Kane dragging her into trouble. If Phyllis does in fact commit crimes for Kane amid all the drama surrounding AI software, that might become an unpleasant reality for her. Naturally, there have been some skepticism regarding the existence of the software. Although there isn't any evidence yet, the threat has undoubtedly alarmed certain important Genoa City players. Kane may be lying to frighten his adversaries, but Phyllis is certain that she believes in Kane's program and will be prepared to use it going forward. Phyllis will defend Kane and their strange bond throughout the interrogation that will take place when Nick corners her. Phyllis might contend that they don't need to explain anything to anybody else because Kane and Phyllis simply understand one another. Kane will be on the hot seat with those he cares about in the meanwhile. Lily Winters and Jill Abbott will confront Kane about his past, which may entail talking about the good, the terrible, and the ugly. This might happen as a result of the significant media assault that Victor Newman is preparing to launch on Kane with assistance from Adam Newman and Chelsea Lawson. Kane may seek solace from Phyllis after he's been agitated by the media attention and is feeling awful following the ensuing interrogation. Might that entail a passionate outburst with Kane? After her encounter with Kane, Lily might forget something and return for a slap in the face. Stay watch for updates on any romance news involving Kane, as Phyllis will be partnered with an unexpected love interest in the upcoming weeks. Jack and Diane come up with a devious plan while Lily unleashes and leaves Kane in tears. When Phyllis finds out that Daniel and Tessa are traveling to Boston, she starts looking for additional details at Crimson Lights. She asks whether he ought to leave this to the married pair to handle alone. Daniel becomes combative. To get right to the subject, Phyllis questions whether he is attracted to this girl. Daniel claims that Tessa is only a friend and that he has no affections for her. Phyllis doesn't believe it at all and keeps on as only she can. She bluffs that Danny informed her it was true, which stops Daniel from leaving. Phyllis Daniel. Tessa adores her wife, Daniel tells his mother. He's called a sucker by Phyllis for accompanying her and supporting her. A friend, corrects Daniel. When you're in love with someone who is in love with someone else, Phyllis cautions that unrequited love is a unique type of torment. She's so knowledgeable about the topic that she fell down that pit twice, which makes Daniel shudder. Phyllis persistently encourages her son to allow Tessa to rely on Sharon. Phyllis continues warning him, but he maintains that he is good. Daniel YNR. Shall they press enter? Adam reads the piece about Kane and Colin aloud to Nick and Chelsea at Newman Media. It seems a bit dark and flowery to Nick. After Victor gives his approval, it will go live. Chelsea is concerned about the potential nature of Kane's retaliation. Chelsea concerns that Kane can do what he claims to be able to do and that the narrative might send him over the brink as they talk about the hazardous AI program. The family might be destroyed. Victor is certain that Jill can control Kane, and Nick isn't sure the creature really exists. Adam Chelsea Nick YNR. They briefly discuss Jill's prospects before returning to the narrative. Chelsea worries that Lily and Ashby's children may witness this. He will strike back. They have to be all in, says Nick. Chelsea agrees and sighs. Victor gives Adam the all-clear to publish. Nick and Chelsea observe Adam's stunning enter hit. Every major news source picked it up in a matter of seconds. Will Kane face Jill? Jill makes Jack depart the Kane train and alerts Ashby of their impending brief conversation. She clarifies that Victor told her something ridiculous, but Billy's words were already terrible enough. She confronts him over Colin's deception of a woman in order to obtain the chateau. Is it true, Kane? She grits her teeth as Kane again dodges her query. He called Victor's bluff, but why? Kane screams that no one will be able to control him. Kane. Jill makes fun of him and questions whether she was the target of that. Of course not, Kane responds. Jill reminds him that for the moment, she is all he has. Kane regrets his big debut, which has been a catastrophe. Living two lives was simpler than attempting to atone for Kane Ashby's transgressions. Is he even attempting to do that? Jill asks. Returning to Colin's deception, Kane disputes any awareness of it. He is believed by Jill. They concur that he sounds a lot like the chateau business. Lily enters the room, furious, as Kane assures his kids that he was unaware of the dirty money. Lily finds out that Kane knew Victor was planning to publish this story and did nothing to stop him or alert the children, despite Jill's attempts to defuse the situation. She lashes out at him for attempting to persuade her that Colin had changed. Kane objects, he wasn't involved. Lily tells him that the children will realize he is his father's son when they have read this. She's done, but Kane fiercely defends himself. She will approve of Maddie and Charlie leaving him this time. Kane stalks out, blinking away the tears. This cannot be fixed by me. It isn't feasible. Is Diane going to be taken by surprise? Diane inquires about Jack and Kane's rendezvous at Jabot. Although he couldn't persuade him to give up his digital hand grenade, Jill's presence gave him hope. He has a gut feeling that everything will work out for them. Diane Jack. Jack maintains that Kane is at a turning point and that he realized he approached everything incorrectly. Jack is positive he saw a weakness, but Diane is doubtful. Better yet, they won't have to cooperate with Victor if Jill can reach him. Diane is concerned that the program will continue to pose a risk. Jack is going to persuade Jill to allow him to destroy it. Diane requests that her husband delete it. Yeah, or use it on Victor and Newman Enterprises, Jack responds. Diane Jack. Last scenes. Adam and Chelsea take calls regarding the Kane scandal at Newman Media before arguing with Nick about his intention to move to Los Angeles. Victor wants them there, Adam says. Nick wants to take care of his own family since he thinks this is absurd. Noah needs to see for himself since Sharon feels that something is wrong with him. Nick. Lily bursts into crimson lights while Phyllis and Daniel are still arguing. Are you okay? Daniel asks. Phyllis takes out her phone to read the Kane story while she yells about it. She mockingly acknowledges that Phyllis is partly to blame for her ex-husband's refusal to go. Phyllis receives a call after they discuss the mayhem Kane has wreaked. Phyllis Lily. Jill tries to persuade Ashby that he can make this all better on the Kane train. She insists he can show his family that he loves them more than anything, despite his long-winded arguments. He needs to provide indisputable proof. Jill Kane. Phyllis answers the phone on the patio of Crimson Lights and says to Kane, I know, I saw it. Kane must see her immediately. It's urgent. Kane Ashby and Phyllis Summers' scandalous connection has been simmering under the surface for weeks, but nothing could have prepared Genoa City for what was about to unfold when their hot train encounter collided with real-life consequences, family interference, and a storm of Newman-fueled chaos. From the very beginning, Joshua Morrow's Nick Newman warned Phyllis that throwing herself into Kane's orbit again was a recipe for disaster, insisting that Kane carried the stench of trouble like a shadow that would eventually consume her. Nick has always known that Phyllis, despite her fire, her independence, and her refusal to be tamed, had a dangerous vulnerability when it came to being seduced by the kind of reckless excitement men like Kane thrived on, and as much as Nick tried to reason with her, Phyllis dug in her heels, defending Kane's controversial AI software scheme as though it were a hill she was prepared to die on. Kane had promised her that this program was revolutionary, a weapon that could level the playing field against Victor Newman's empire, but Nick countered with harsh reality. If Phyllis got caught in Kane's lies and schemes, she wasn't just risking her reputation, she was risking prison time. Yet Phyllis being Phyllis, she stood tall, defiant, arguing that Kane understood her in ways Nick never could, in ways Jack no longer did, in ways no one else dared try. Phyllis insisted that her connection with Kane wasn't about convenience, lust, or desperation, it was about a shared understanding, two misfits finding fire in each other's chaos. Nick scoffed, telling her that she was setting herself up for heartbreak, but what Phyllis didn't admit, not to Nick, not even to herself, was how deep Kane's influence had already dug into her veins. As whispers of Kane's AI program spread, skepticism mounted in Genoa City's upper echelons, especially among Victor Newman, Adam, and Chelsea, who worked together to craft a damning exposé designed to obliterate Kane's reputation before the program could destabilize Newman Media's hold on the tech world. Though no one could prove its existence, the very threat of Kane's software was enough to rattle the mighty, and as Newman Media prepared to unleash the scandalous report, Kane found himself cornered by his own past. Jill Abbott and Lily Winters took turns confronting him, peeling back the carefully curated image he tried so hard to present, reminding him of the wreckage he'd already left behind. Jill accused him of replaying Colin's sins, deceit, theft, betrayal, while Lily, wounded and raw, demanded to know how Kane could once again put his family in the crosshairs of destruction. Their words cut deeper than Kane would ever admit, and by the time Victor's media assault hit the airwaves, Kane was a man teetering on the edge, desperate for a place to hide, desperate for someone to believe in him. That someone, of course, was Phyllis. The stage was set for their forbidden train rendezvous, a desperate escape, a stolen night, a hot collision of two combustible souls determined to outrun the storm. Phyllis, her fiery red hair catching the dim light of the carriage, leaned into Kane with a passion that screamed both rebellion and surrender, her lips tracing promises of loyalty against his neck as the train thundered down the tracks. Kane, equally ravenous and equally wounded, clung to her as if she were the only tether he had left, his hands mapping every inch of the woman who believed in him when no one else would. Their breathless laughter mingled with moans of desperation, a symphony of scandal on wheels, as if the train itself carried them further away from their troubles. Yet fate has a cruel sense of timing in Genoa City, and before their fiery moment could burn into permanence, the sliding door snapped open with a jolt, and there she stood, Lily Winters, eyes blazing, chest heaving, a picture of betrayal and fury incarnate. Unbelievable, Lily spat, her voice trembling with both rage and heartbreak. The sight of her ex-husband entangled with Phyllis, her former stepmother and perpetual thorn in her side, was enough to send the air crackling with tension. Kane stumbled back, scrambling for words, his guilt written all over his face, but Phyllis, never one to cower, straightened her posture and dared Lily to call her out. "Don't look at me like that, Lily," Phyllis snapped, her tone sharp as glass. "You think you know Kane, but you don't. Not anymore." Lily's eyes narrowed, her fists clenching as years of pain, lies, and betrayal came rushing back. "I know enough," she hissed. "I know he ruins everything he touches. And clearly, you're willing to let him ruin you too." The train rocked with tension as Kane tried to intervene, reaching for Lily, begging her to listen, insisting that what he had with Phyllis wasn't some tawdry fling but something real. But Lily wasn't buying it, not when their children's lives were once again being dragged into scandal, not when Kane had allowed Victor's story to publish without warning them, not when every ounce of trust she'd ever given him had already been burned to ashes. The confrontation escalated, voices rising above the roar of the train, until Jill Abbott herself appeared at the next stop, summoned by Lily's desperate call. Jill wasted no time laying into Kane, berating him for dragging the family name through the mud yet again, for embarrassing her, for squandering every chance at redemption she'd ever handed him. Kane's defenses crumbled in the face of Jill's wrath, and for a moment, the powerful, scheming man who threatened Newman Enterprises looked like nothing more than a boy caught with his hand in the cookie jar. Phyllis stood firm, however, refusing to let Kane take all the heat, insisting that she was in this with him, that she wasn't some victim, that she chose him, scandal and all. "He may be flawed," Phyllis barked, "but at least he's real. Can either of you say the same about the men you've chosen?" Her words sliced through the carriage, but they only fueled Lily's disgust. "Real?" Lily sneered. "He's his father's son, Phyllis. And when your world burns down because of him, don't say I didn't warn you." The fallout was immediate. Newman Media's Exposé went live, flooding every device in Genoa City with damning headlines about Kane's shady business dealings, his ties to Colin's schemes, and his reckless AI promises. Adam smirked as clicks skyrocketed, Chelsea worried about Kane's retaliation, and Victor watched with smug satisfaction, convinced that he'd finally clipped the wings of a dangerous adversary. Back in the train car, Kane's phone buzzed with alert after alert, each one another nail in his coffin. Jill urged him to get ahead of the scandal, to make a statement, to salvage what little credibility he had left, but Kane only saw red. "No one controls me," he growled, his eyes burning with defiance. Jill shook her head, defeated, while Lily turned away in disgust, muttering that she was finally done for good. Phyllis, however, refused to abandon him. On the patio of Crimson Lights later that night, she answered his frantic call, her voice low and urgent. "I know, I saw it," she said, her tone carrying equal parts dread and determination. "You need to see me. Right now." Kane, broken yet unbowed, knew that Phyllis was the only ally he had left, the only one who believed in his vision, the only one willing to risk everything for him. But as their paths converged once again, one truth became painfully clear: their bond wasn't just passion or rebellion, it was survival, a dangerous cocktail that could either ignite a new empire or drag them both down in flames. And with Lily's fury still echoing, Jill's disappointment weighing heavy, and Newman Media's war machine in full swing, the question wasn't whether Kane and Phyllis could weather the storm, it was how much destruction they were willing to unleash in order to stay together. The aftermath of Kane and Phyllis's busted train encounter rippled like a shockwave through Genoa City, leaving no corner untouched. Lily Winters could not believe what she had seen. Her ex-husband, the man who once swore he would do anything to win back her trust, caught red-handed with Phyllis Summers of all people. For Lily, it wasn't just betrayal, it was humiliation. She thought she had seen the worst of Kane when he covered for Colin's cons, when he lied about who he was, when he allowed deception to creep into every corner of their marriage. But this reckless affair with Phyllis, a woman who thrived on chaos, felt like the ultimate slap in the face. As she stormed off the train that night, her heart pounding in her ears, Lily promised herself one thing: she would never again let Kane Ashby dictate her peace. But the drama didn't stop with Lily's rage. Jill Abbott, always torn between protecting her son and holding him accountable, found herself caught in the middle of the mess yet again. Jill's instincts told her to wash her hands of Kane, to let him sink in the quicksand he'd created, but her heart pulled her back. He was her son, her flawed, stubborn, frustrating son, and no matter how badly he disappointed her, some part of her always believed redemption was possible. But redemption would require contrition, and Kane wasn't in the mood for apologies. Instead, he clung to Phyllis as if she were his life raft, insisting that their bond was different, that this time he had found someone who wouldn't judge him, who wouldn't walk away when things got ugly. Jill rolled her eyes at his defense, muttering that Phyllis was no savior, she was gasoline on a fire already raging out of control. Still, she held her tongue, knowing that Kane would never listen until the flames finally consumed him. Meanwhile, Newman Media's Exposé spread like wildfire, and Victor Newman couldn't have been more satisfied with himself. Sitting in his office with a glass of scotch in hand, he marveled at how easily Kane had walked into the trap. Adam, grinning like the Cheshire Cat, relished the chaos as the clicks poured in, while Chelsea's worry grew by the second. She voiced her concern that Kane wasn't the kind of man to take humiliation lying down. "He'll come for us," she warned, her voice low, her eyes darting nervously. Victor smirked. "Let him try," he replied coolly. "Kane Ashby doesn't have the resources to take down a Newman. He never did. And now, the whole world sees him for what he really is, a con man just like his father." Nick, however, wasn't so convinced. He knew Phyllis, knew her patterns, and knew how far she'd go when she believed in someone. "You're underestimating her," Nick cautioned. "If she's really backing Kane, she'll fight tooth and nail, and believe me, you don't want Phyllis Summers coming after you when she's cornered." Adam snorted at the suggestion, but Chelsea nodded in agreement. She knew Nick was right, Phyllis might be reckless, but when she dug her heels in, she was a force of nature. Back at Crimson Lights, Phyllis was already plotting her counterattack. After answering Kane's urgent phone call, she sat with her laptop, her fingers flying across the keyboard, muttering about firewalls, data trails, and exposure. Kane arrived minutes later, looking like a man on the verge of collapse, his tie askew, his eyes bloodshot, but still clinging to defiance. "They think they've won," he said bitterly, slamming a folder down on the table. "But this isn't over." Phyllis leaned in, her eyes glittering. "Of course it's not. You think I'm going to let Victor Newman destroy you? Destroy us? Not a chance." She opened the folder, scanning the documents Kane had gathered, proof of Newman Media's manipulation, holes in the exposé, even traces of Adam's fingerprints in the smear campaign. Phyllis's mind worked like a machine, already building strategies, already seeing the angles. "We fight back," she whispered fiercely. "We turn this around on them. If Victor wants a war, we'll give him one." But not everyone shared Phyllis's enthusiasm. Daniel Romalotti, furious after yet another spat with his mother about Tessa, walked into Crimson Lights just in time to hear her last words. "A war," he repeated incredulously, his voice rising with frustration. "Mom, are you serious? You're dragging yourself into Kane's mess? Do you even hear yourself right now?" Phyllis turned, bristling at his tone, but Daniel pressed on, his face red with anger. "You've done a lot of stupid things, Mom, but this takes the cake. Kane is poison. He drags down everyone around him, and you're just lining up to be his next casualty. What about Summer? What about me? Don't we matter?" His words stung, but Phyllis refused to back down. "You don't understand," she snapped. "This isn't about Kane being poison, it's about him finally standing up to people who think they own this town. You should be proud of me for fighting back instead of playing it safe." Daniel shook his head, disgusted. "You're not